The Mountain is You. The title itself is beautiful. Let me tell you that. What a book. What happened this week? Well, I completed the book. I journaled quite a few times. I've been waking up consistently at 5 a.m. I'm still on track. I am being consistent and I am showing up. That's what matters. This entire week, I have felt so damn good. And the main key to me feeling so happy and at peace is because I've been reading and I've been journaling. I am no longer anxious. My thoughts are more organized. If you're not doing that, I highly suggest you to do so. You will feel the change. Do it consistently for a month. You will feel really, really good. Why is this book called The Mountain Is You? I have written it entirely over here. So I'm going to read it from here because it's just so much information. The book uses the mountain as a metaphor. Mountains have always symbolized spiritual awakening. The mountain in front of you is your calling, the place where your purpose, resistance, and potential meet. You don't climb it to defeat it, you climb it to become someone new. I mean, that sounds amazing, doesn't it? And when the mountain is finally behind you, what remains is not the victory, but the person you had to become to rise beyond it. The book is actually structured in 7 chapters. Each chapter explores a different layer of inner resistance, healing, and self-mastery. I kept getting in my own way. I had the skills, I had the opportunities, and the drive. Yet, somehow, I was my own biggest obstacle. It wasn't until I read The Mountain Is You that I realized what was happening. I was self-sabotaging and I hadn't even recognized it. So let's start with why did I pick this book? I wasn't even planning to read this book. I just walked into a bookstore and the title jumped out at me. I remember looking at it and I'm like, oh man, that just looks interesting. It sounded personal, challenging, like it was calling me. And I thought, alright, let's see what this mountain is all about. So I grabbed the book and then I read the subtitle, Transforming Self-Sabotage into Self-Mastery. And I remember thinking to myself, I don't really self-sabotage, so maybe this isn't for me. But for some reason, the title just wouldn't leave my head, so I picked it up. And oh boy, do I not self-sabotage. A few pages in, I realized this wasn't one of those books you read for motivation. I ended up reading it all the way through because every chapter felt like it was holding up a mirror. It wasn't just theory or concepts, it was pointing out things I could actually recognize in myself, patterns I'd been ignoring for a long time. Parts of it made me uncomfortable, so much so to the point that some chapters even made me a little angry. But not at the book, no, at myself, because you start realizing how blind you can be to your own behavior. So let's talk about what the book is actually about. At its core, the book is about self-sabotage, how we get in our own way, why we do it, and how to finally climb the mountain that is ourselves. In the end, the mountain is not what must be mastered. You are. There's way too many insights, lessons, pillars, whatever you may call them. I won't be doing it any justice if I said that the ones that I mentioned are the only ones in there because, like I said, there's way too many. But the insights that I'm going to mention are some of the ones that I just connected with. I'm still not even 100% sure if I should go with this list or the other one. But this is one that resonates the most with me, which is why I'm gonna go with the one that I'm gonna talk about in this video. Insight number 1. Recognize your self-sabotage. Self-sabotage often hides in habits and patterns you don't notice. Self-sabotage isn't always obvious. It hides in familiar habits, through patterns and emotional responses that feel normal, even logical to you. Self-sabotage is a coping mechanism. In the book, Brianna explains that self-sabotage usually shows up after awareness. You know something in your life isn't working, yet you continue the behavior anyway, not because you're lazy or broken, but because your nervous system is prioritizing comfort over growth. Self sabotage often looks like resisting opportunities that could move you forward, repeating cycles that you already know the outcome of, creating chaos, distractions, or excuses when progress requires consistency, staying attached to what feels familiar even when it makes you unhappy. At its core, self sabotage is not self hatred, it's self protection. It's your mind trying to keep you safe from uncertainty, change, vulnerability, or emotional risk. The first step isn't fixing anything, it's just seeing the pattern clearly without judgment. You can't change what you refuse to acknowledge. When I look back, I can clearly see this in my own life. I wasn't stuck because I lacked skill or opportunity. I was stuck because every single time I started to move forward, I would slow myself down. I resisted consistency, overthought simple actions, and distracted myself when progress required commitment. Reading this made me realize that I wasn't failing. I was protecting myself from change. Growth felt unfamiliar, so my mind chose comfort instead. The lesson that I learned from this insight is awareness is the first step. Once you see the pattern, you can change it. Quote, "The mountain you must climb is you." So here's some signs of self-sabotage and how it showed up in my life. Resistance. I knew exactly what to do and still avoided it. Not because I didn't care, no, but because moving forward felt uncomfortable, hitting my upper limit. This one shocked me. Whenever things started going well, I slowed myself down. Progress felt unfamiliar, so I unsubconsciously pulled myself back. Perfectionism. I kept refining instead of finishing. Making it better was my way of avoiding being seen. Being busy. I filled my days with tasks so I wouldn't have to face the one thing that actually mattered. Attachment to what I didn't really want. I stayed consistent to things that felt familiar, even when I knew they weren't aligned with who I was becoming. Blaming others. When things didn't work out, I looked for external reasons. Blame protected my ego. Judging others. When someone else's success bothered me, it was usually pointing to something I hadn't accepted in myself yet. Downplaying myself. I minimized my ways so I wouldn't outgrow the people or the version of myself I was used to. Fear of failure and fear of success. Failure scared me because it could prove my doubts right, and success scared me because it would force me to change. And the last one, irrational worry. I made decisions based on worst case scenarios that would almost never happen. Let's move forward to the insight number 2. Transform through small, intentional actions. Growth isn't sudden, it's a series of small, intentional choices. Real change doesn't come from motivation or big breakthroughs, it comes from small actions done consistently, especially when you don't feel ready. In the book, Brianna explains that transformation happens when you stop trying to leap over the mountain and start climbing it, one step at a time. Your nervous system doesn't trust massive change, it trusts evidence. And small repeated actions are how you build that evidence. Transformation often looks like doing something imperfect instead of waiting for confidence, choosing consistency over intensity, showing up even when the results are slow or invisible. Small actions may seem insignificant, but they quietly rewire your identity. They teach you that forward movement is safe. In my own life, progress didn't come from dramatic decisions or changes. It came from doing the small things consistently, even when they felt uncomfortable. There was no instant validation. No quick win, just repetition. I made a simple commitment to myself. Finish one meaningful task every day that moves me towards my bigger goals. No over planning, no perfection, just completion. Over time, those small actions added up, like me stacking books on top of each other. What once felt heavy started feeling normal, and momentum replaced hesitation. The lesson that I learned from this insight is that you don't transform by doing everything at once. You transform by choosing the next small steps and taking them. The quote that would align with this insight from the book would be, "You don't change in breakthroughs, you change in micro shifts." Insight number 3: self trust is built, not found. Self trust isn't something you just randomly discover, it's something that you create. Most of us have broken trust with ourselves without realizing it, ignoring our own commitments, giving in to fear, or avoiding discomfort. Brianna explains that the root of self sabotage is often a lack of trust in ourselves. When you doubt your own decisions, emotions, or ability to handle challenges, your nervous system defaults to safety, even if that safety keeps you stuck. Self-trust often looks like this: making decisions and following through even when fear shows up, sitting with uncomfortable emotions instead of avoiding them, showing up for yourself consistently even when results are slow or uncertain, learning to rely on your own judgment, not external validation. For a long time, I actually didn't trust myself. I hesitated on decisions, avoided taking risks, and convinced myself that I wasn't ready. Over time, I actually realized that these aren't signs of weakness, they were signs of broken trust with myself. I hadn't yet proven to myself that I could handle discomfort, mistakes, or uncertainty. The shift didn't come from action alone. It would have been easier if that was the case, obviously. It came from noticing my hesitation, sitting with it, and quietly learning. I can handle this, I can make a decision and live through the consequences. That's what I told myself. Now, self trust grew in the pauses between fear and choice, not in constant motion. The lesson that I learned from this insight is that self trust is earned, not found. It's built by showing up for yourself emotionally and mentally, not just by taking action. Proving to yourself that you can handle discomfort and uncertainty quietly rewires your confidence from the inside out. The quote that I would attach with this insight: self sabotage is what happens when we refuse to consciously meet our innermost needs, often because we do not believe we are capable of handling them. Insight number 4: core commitments versus core needs. Brianna explains that much of our self sabotage happens because we confuse our core commitments with our core needs. So, what is the difference between both of them? Core commitment is equal to what you think you need. These are the rules or expectations you give yourself, often to protect your needs, but sometimes they make things worse. Some examples would be: I must never fail, I have to be perfect, I should always work hard. And the core needs is equal to what you actually need. These are the things that your mind and your heart truly need to feel safe, happy, and whole. Now, some examples would be love, growth, emotional safety, belonging, or rest. Self sabotage happens when a core commitment, like "I must never fail" or "I have to please everyone," conflicts with a core need, like growth or self respect. We try to follow the commitment, ignoring the need, and the tension creates stress, procrastination, or avoidance. I realized this in my own life when I kept overworking to meet my commitments to productivity and perfectionism, thinking it would make me successful. But in reality, my core need was to feel capable and in control without fear of failure. By clinging too tightly to commitment, I told myself I must always produce perfect results. I actually sabotaged the thing I wanted the most, which was progress, confidence, and trust in myself. And honestly, recognizing the difference was eye-opening. I started questioning my commitments. I then started telling myself that, is this rule serving my real need, or am I following it out of fear? Now, the lessons that I learned from this insight is that not all rules we follow serves us. Distinguishing your core commitments from your core needs gives you clarity. When your commitments align with your needs, actions actually feel natural instead of forced. When they don't, self-sabotage actually emerges on top. Now, the quote that I would link with this insight that I picked from the book: your core commitments are actually a cover up for your core needs. The less you feed your core need, the louder your core commitment symptoms will be. Let's move forward to the insight number 5: choosing discomfort consciously. Brianna explains that self-sabotage often happens because we cling to comfort. Our nervous system resists uncertainty, change, and emotional risk. Growth, however, lives on the other side of discomfort. You can transform your life while avoiding the uneasy, unfamiliar, or emotionally challenging experiences. Discomfort isn't the enemy, however, avoiding it is. The key is choosing discomfort consciously rather than letting your fear or habit dictate your actions. Discomfort often looks like this: feeling anxious about making a big decision, facing rejection, criticism, or failure, saying no to people pleasing or toxic attachments, trying something new when you're unsure of the outcome. Something that I really loved from the book that Brianna said was that discomfort is one of life's greatest gifts. It doesn't arrive to break you, it arrives to reshape you. And nothing in nature grows without pressure. Volcanoes erupt, stars collapse, mountains rise only when the earth is forced against itself. So yeah, growth is not gentle, but it is definitely honest. I actually used to avoid sharing my own reflections and insights because I feared judgment. What if people thought I was arrogant or weird? What if I was misunderstood? But in reality, I realized that avoiding that discomfort means my ideas and growth would stay hidden. Each time I posted a personal thought or video reflection, I was stepping into discomfort consciously. That small but repeated choice taught me that the fear itself wasn't dangerous. Avoiding it, however, was. And over time, I actually built trust with myself and I had a voice of my own. You have to become so comfortable with discomfort that nothing is uncomfortable anymore. Now, the lessons that I learned from this insight: discomfort is where growth happens. Discomfort is a gift, not an enemy. Avoidance is what keeps you stuck. Progress requires consciously stepping into what feels uneasy, scary, or unfamiliar. Over time, repeated exposure to discomfort rewires your mind. Fear loses power, confidence grows, and self-sabotage actually decreases. And the quote with this insight: your new life is going to cost you your old one, is going to cost you your comfort zone and your sense of direction. Feel to heal. Self-sabotage often happens when we avoid or suppress our emotions. Emotions like fear, guilt, shame, and anger aren't your enemies. They are actually signals. The problem is that we resist them, numb them, and distract ourselves, which keeps us stuck. Real growth happens when we feel our emotions fully, understand them, and act despite them. Emotions guide us. Ignoring them mislead us. Here are some signs that we are resisting our emotions: frequent self-criticism or guilt, punishing yourself instead of processing your emotions, obsessing over what ifs, ruminating about situations instead of facing the underlying feeling, impulsive reactions, sudden anger, sadness, or anxiety because feelings weren't acknowledged earlier, people pleasing or overcompensating, trying to manage others' reactions instead of our own feelings. I used to push away uncomfortable feelings all my life: fear, doubt, or anxiety, whatever it may be, whenever I faced a big decision. At first, I'd distract myself with scrolling or games or maybe busy work. Then I tried something different. I paused and allowed myself to feel it fully, without judgment. It was uncomfortable at first, for sure. But slowly, I noticed clarity replacing chaos. Fear became guidance, doubt became insight, and I could act from a grounded place. Feeling my emotions didn't really make me weak. It made me free. The lessons that I learned from this insight: emotions are signals, not obstacles. Avoiding feelings strengthens self sabotage. Feeling fully allows clarity and conscious actions. Growth requires both action and emotional awareness. The quote that I would link with this insight: if you want to master your life, you have to learn to organize your feelings. By becoming aware of them, you can decide whether an idea is an actual threat or is it just your fear talking. Trust the process. Brianna emphasizes that transformation is a gradual climb, not a single leap. Real change doesn't happen overnight. Self-sabotage often appears when we expect instant results or compare ourselves to others. The mountain doesn't disappear because we try hard once. Lasting growth comes from consistent and patient effort, even when results aren't immediately visible. Signs that you're resisting the process: feeling frustrated by slow progress, comparing your journey to others, giving up when things feel invisible or stagnant, obsessing over that perfect plan instead of taking action. When I started building my freelance business and creating content, the early days were invisible. I spent hours editing, sending emails, and posting videos, but the results weren't immediate. It would have been easy to quit or overthink every step. Instead, I would remind myself progress is invisible at first, but it's happening. I trusted the process and focused on showing up every single day, one small step at a time. Over months, momentum built, opportunities came, and what once felt slow and uncertain turned into tangible growth. The lessons that I learned from this insight: transformation is gradual. You don't leap over the mountain in a day. Small, repeated actions compound into real, lasting change. Patience is an active choice. Persistence is the engine of growth. Trusting the process keeps self-sabotage at bay. Insight number 8. Aligning with purpose. Self-sabotage often happens because we are living according to others' expectations, habits, or rules that don't actually serve us. True growth comes when we align our actions with our authentic needs, values, and purpose. The mountain isn't just about overcoming fear or discomfort. It's about discovering who you really are and choosing to live fully as that person. Here are some signs that you are out of alignment: feeling unfulfilled despite success, consistently seeking validation from others, avoiding decisions that reflect your true desires, saying yes to things that don't serve your growth or well-being. True growth comes when we discover our purpose and align our actions with it. Purpose isn't just about big life goals. It's about identifying what truly matters to you, what energizes you, and what reflects your authentic self. When our actions are aligned with our purpose, decisions feel clear and natural rather than forced or confusing. Progress feels satisfying and energizing because it supports your deeper values. Self-sabotage decreases because your actions are in service of something that truly matters. Finding purpose isn't a single moment, it's a gradual process of listening to yourself, reflecting to your values, and testing what truly resonates. The mountain isn't just something to climb, it's a mirror that shows you who you are meant to be. An alignment with purpose is the path to living fully. I spent years chasing goals that looked impressive on paper, the right clients, the right titles, the right image, but inside I feel disconnected. Something was off, and no amount of action or discomfort could fix it. The turning point came when I started questioning every single choice. Was this coming from fear, obligation, or my true desire? I began saying no to what didn't align with my values and yes to what resonated with my authentic self. It wasn't easy for sure. It meant facing judgment, uncertainty, and the discomfort of change. But as I aligned my actions with purpose, life started feeling lighter, decisions clearer, and growth more meaningful. The lessons that I learned from this insight: self-sabotage often happens when you ignore your authentic self. Aligning your actions with your true needs and purpose creates natural momentum. Courage isn't just stepping into discomfort, it's living truthfully, even when it's unpopular or scary. Your mountain isn't just to climb, it's to reveal who you really are. The quote that I would add to this insight is that one day this mountain will be behind you, but who you became in the process of getting over it will stay with you always. When you reach the peak of it all, whatever that may be for you, you look back and know that every step was worth it. More than anything, you will be overwhelmingly grateful for the pain that led you to your journey. Because really, it wasn't trying to hurt you as much as it was trying to show you that something was wrong. That something was the risk of your potential remaining untapped. Your life spent with the wrong people, doing the wrong things, and wondering why you never felt quite right. Your life is just beginning. One day, the mountain that was in front of you will be so far behind you, it will barely be visible in the distance. But who you became in learning to climb it, that will stay with you forever. That is the point of the mountain. This one lesson in the book, a subtopic, it talks about schedule time to play. If you really want to enjoy your life, you have to make time to do what you loved when you were young. Paint, play in the sand, play games you love, and be creative for the sake of it. If that all sounds childish, good. It means you're ready to reconcile with your inner child, who is and always has been there all along. And then in the ending, she talks about mastery is to realize that we are equipped with the exact traits we need to overcome the mountains before us. And in fact, doing so is the ultimate calling of our lives. We are not only capable, we are destined.